Every part of this country is sacred to my people.
White men have their eyes on this
Our land, our religion, and our life.
My heart is full of sorrow that so many were killed.
The very dust under your feet is the ashes of our ancestors.
Hello, I'm Kevin Costner. This fall, I'll be bringing 500 Nations to television. I invite you to join me for a look deep into the past, into the history of the Indian nations of North America. We'll take you back to a time long before the first Europeans set foot on this land, and we'll give you an amazing glimpse at worlds few of us have ever imagined. With the arrival of Christopher Columbus, we'll follow a 400-year trail of conflict that reshaped the world. But mostly we'll follow people, real people, from emperors to simple individuals that became heroes. Through the voices of history and the voices of today, 500 Nations steps into the past.
"500 Nations" takes us back to the beginning, where great cultures thrived all over North America. So much of the evidence that links us to these indigenous peoples is disappearing, and yet breakthroughs in computer technology bring the past to life like never before. Centuries before the arrival of the Europeans, the forgotten city of Cahokia on the Mississippi was a great center of trade and commerce. To the south in Mexico, Aztec ruler Montezuma ruled an empire of millions and commanded an army of over 200,000 men. In northern New Mexico, an enormous spiritual center was constructed in Chaco Canyon, 100 years before Europe's first Gothic cathedrals. Along the shores of Lake Ontario in western New York, a grand council of 5 Indian tribes conceived a revolutionary idea: democracy. Suddenly, there were tales of boats like houses floating on the sea.
We have discovered a land rich in gold, pearls, and other things.
When Europeans landed on these ancient shores and christened them the New World,
they were very white. Their eyes were like chalk. They wore long beards.
A cycle of encroachment, violence, and greed began.
Englishmen, although you have conquered the French, you have not yet conquered us.
They took a part of my tribe and sold them to the Spaniards in Bermuda.
The whites have driven us from the sea to the lakes. We can go no farther.
It was a clash of cultures.
They want us to live like white people, and we couldn't live like that back there.
Of simple lives crushed by colonial interests.
Why will you take by force what you may have quietly by love?
All our ancient customs are disregarded.
Could it not be contrived to send the smallpox among those disaffected tribes of Indians? You will do well to try to inoculate the Indians by means of blankets.
For hundreds of years, it was open season on Indian lands and hunting grounds. The United States looked west and saw a grand destiny. The Indians looked east.
What treaty that the white man ever made with us have they kept?
And saw an endless trail of broken promises.
I felt a wave of fury toward our government's whole Indian policy.
I've come to kill Indians and believe it is right and honorable.
Their spirits are still there at the massacre site. They'll never rest.
Some chose armed resistance.
I prefer to die fighting rather than by starvation.
The white people are preparing to build a railroad through our country. We have to fight for what is ours.
Others gave in, hoping to survive.
The Indians' only safe future can be found in merging their interests with ours.
An aggressive policy of assimilation began. Children were seized from their families and placed in boarding schools.
Our belongings were taken from us. Even the little medicine bags our mothers had given us to protect us from harm.
I knew who I wanted to be, like Sally in our primer books.
Many came to doubt their own identity.
Desperately, I tried to cling to the faded past, which was slowly being erased from my mind.
Nations across the continent were forced to give up their homelands and moved onto reservations where they were held virtual prisoners.
I was born as a prisoner of war in 1910, and we were freed in 1913.
Remarkably, Indian heritage and identity survive. Pieces of history passed on from generation to generation of Native Americans.
In 1986, it was that long before I even set my foot on my homeland. And having the opportunity of going into a cave and looking up at the ceiling and seeing the paintings that my people put up there, that's too much.
People are the key to any history. Their stories speak to the heart as well as the head.
And I can just imagine how my grandmothers and my grandfathers would have felt if they had come back like I did. And I saw those places for them.
500 Nations sweeps over thousands of miles and thousands of years of history. The rich oral traditions of Native Americans have helped put the puzzle together through dozens of interviews filmed all over this continent. Shot at many of North America's most important historical sites, from Central America to the Arctic, 500 Nations brings together the greatest collection of Indian images and artifacts ever assembled. For the first time on television, computer-generated images never before seen give us a window on worlds long since lost. The doors of memory are kept ajar through the work of archaeologists, historians, and most importantly, descendants of the Indian nations. Rediscover the new world with host Kevin Costner in this epic 8-hour miniseries coming to CBS television in the fall of 1994. 500 Nations.